A woman jogs down the sidewalk on a sunny California day, not knowing that her life was about to change forever. What happened next became a case that left detectives baffled for years, a family torn apart, and an entire community wanting revenge, but not for the reasons you may think. Welcome to Vice Confidential, where we share true crime stories that go far beyond what meets the eye. This time, our subject is Sherri Papini, an everyday California girl at first glance, with a dark past that ended up consuming her life, betraying those nearest and dearest to her. Born on June 11, 1982, Sherri came into a troubled existence. The tale that followed painted a portrait of a tormented soul. At the age of 18, she had stolen from her own father, which marked the beginning of a series of events that made her a difficult person to trust. Things got worse when Sherri's mother came to the police, believing that her daughter, for reasons unknown, was running a charade of self-inflicted wounds which she refused to take responsibility for. Many years later, in a desperate bid for redemption, Sherri's defense attorney, the silver-tongued William Portanova, gave his argument. He created the image of a tortured childhood, a storm of pain and suffering that had warped her very essence. Portanova argued that her tumultuous upbringing had become a breeding ground for the deceit that followed, an origin that led Sherri down a path of manipulation. It was within the unforgiving walls of a desolate middle school that she had crossed paths with her future husband, Keith Papini, allowing a spark of youthful innocence to ignite. Sherri, in her own words, recounted a first kiss that would forever alter the course of her life. Little did she know that this seemingly innocent connection would become a catalyst for the nightmare that awaited. The passage of time saw their connection broken, their paths diverging into adulthood. Sherri's life unraveled with a series of ill-fated decisions, a whirlwind of failed relationships and shattered dreams. Yet, as fate would have it, the old flame that had once flickered out suddenly reignited. The gravity of their reunion proved irresistible, ensnaring them both in tangled emotions. Love blossomed, unforgiving and intense, bringing their lives together as they embarked on a shared journey toward an uncertain future. Their marriage in 2009, a union marked by promises of eternal devotion, seemed to signal a fresh start, a ray of hope amidst the darkness that was drawing closer. Redding, California became their home, the birthplace of their children, and the backdrop of their seemingly perfect existence. From the outside, their lives appeared to mirror a fairy tale, with the colors of bliss and happiness. But then, in an unexpected twist of fate, the tranquility was shattered. Sherri suddenly vanished without a trace, swallowed whole by the shadowy influences that had lurked in the hidden corners of her life. On November 2nd, 2016, she went out for a jog. Her husband Keith noticed something disturbing upon his return home later that day. A cold emptiness greeted him as he realized his beloved wife had not returned. Unease crept into his veins as he then stumbled upon her abandoned cell phone, discarded on the side of the road just a mile away. Before we continue, please take a moment to support our channel by liking this video, subscribing, and ringing the bell to receive notifications of our newest uploads that are guaranteed to leave you in shock and awe. Now, let's find out what happened next. Keith Papini's heart sank, drowning in a sea of worry as he dialed 911. A frantic search was set in motion, the magnitude of the operation reflecting the growing dread that gripped the town. In the midst of the ordeal, Keith confessed the excruciating pain that plagued his every waking moment on the news. Hope mingled with desperation as he clung to the thread of anticipation, praying for the phone call that would bring his wife back to him or her sudden appearance at their doorstep. 3 agonizing weeks crawled by, each passing day increasing the uncertainty. But then, as if guided by an invisible hand, the case took another twist, thrusting the missing mother into the spotlight. Near a highway, far removed from her home, Sherri was discovered. A frightening image was etched into the eyes of those who beheld her emaciated form. Her once luscious hair, a symbol of her vitality, had been mercilessly violated. Multiple wounds covered her body, a testament to the horrors she had endured. Bruises, a swollen nose, and a brand seared into her shoulder bore witness to the unfathomable cruelty inflicted upon her being. Keith, now a broken shell of a man, spoke of his anguish to the news, recounting the abusive experience that had befallen his wife. But amidst her astonishing recollection, the real story was just beginning. Sherri, initially reluctant to divulge her traumatic experiences to the authorities, shared a narrative that defied reason. She spoke of an encounter with a gun pointed at her trembling form as she fell prey to the clutches of 2 Hispanic women. Bound by chains, imprisoned within the suffocating confines of a closet, She became a captive to their sadistic desires. Torture became her companion, leaving its indelible mark upon her scarred flesh as a brand was etched into the recesses of her shoulder. Though affected by its bizarre nature, the story spurned on the police. Hours turned into days, days into months, as the search for the captors pressed forward. Yet as time passed, Sherri's kidnapping story slowly began to crumble. 4 years of tireless investigation revealed unsettling truths that put her account under extreme scrutiny. From the very beginning, a cloud of doubt loomed over Sherri's narrative, catching the attention of the police. Cracks began to appear in her intricately crafted tale of abduction. The authorities, like bloodhounds scenting a trail, caught a whiff of something strange. Sherri Papini offered varying explanations for the brand that scarred her flesh, each one containing various lies. When the cold fingers of truth gripped the investigation, DNA evidence found on her clothing connected a decisive blow. The genetic imprint belonged to a man, not the assumed female abductors. Confusion mingled with suspicion as the puzzle pieces refused to align. Detectives found no discernible motive for Sherri Papini's abduction, a curious void that defied reason. Furthermore, a perplexing detail caught their attention. There was a contradiction. Her headphones, discovered neatly coiled atop her phone, presented a stark contrast to the chaos that should have accompanied such a violent ordeal. The disarray was absent, raising eyebrows in the minds of seasoned investigators. It was not until the year 2020 that the deception finally began to fall apart, exposing the true villain that lurked beneath. The DNA extracted from Sherri Papini's clothing had a connection to her ex-boyfriend, James Reyes. Reyes appeared on the news and talked about how Papini had confided in him over spousal abuse at the hands of her husband, seeking his assistance in her desperate plight. Unbeknownst to Reyes, the allegations he had believed were completely unfounded. Reyes described how Sherri had willingly sought refuge within his home for weeks, far removed from the frantic search efforts of her loved ones. The tendrils of her calculated manipulation extended, as she wanted to return to the embrace of her children. However, a plan unfolded that involved inflicting injuries upon herself, a performance crafted to deceive the world. Reyes, reluctantly complicit, shared the details with investigators, exposing the real reason behind her branded flesh. The investigators' words, etched with conviction, laid bare the orchestrated hoax. All the weight she lost was a result of self-imposed starvation. Every rash etched upon her skin a consequence of cleaning Reyes' house. She had acquired a branding iron and seared her own skin with it. Her broken nose was a victim of a staged encounter with a hockey stick. The investigator's voice, full of accusations, shattered the reality Sherri had built around herself. Her husband, no longer able to bear witness to the crumbling house of cards, retreated from the interrogation room, the weight of betrayal crushing his spirit. The truth whispered its final statement. There was no use in denial. Reyes, who held her dark secrets, had delivered damning insights. March 2022 marked the downfall of Sherri Papini. The weight of her treachery came down heavily upon her as she faced arrest and the charges of creating falsehoods and committing mail fraud. A swift admission of guilt escaped her lips, a pathetic attempt to salvage what remained of her destroyed credibility. The year of reckoning had come. In the wake of her deceit, the foundations of Sherri's world crumbled further. Keith would no longer endure her betrayal and finally pursued a divorce. His voice, laced with self-contempt, echoed through the interrogation room, embarrassed by his own foolishness. But it wasn't only the authorities and her family who seethed with righteous anger. The local community, once united in their desperate search for the allegedly missing woman and offering unwavering support upon her rescue, now felt like idiots. The flames of their fury burned brightly, fueled by the realization that their efforts had been wasted on a wild goose chase. Sherri's fabricated claims of Hispanic abductors stoked anxiety within the hearts of the Latina community. Fear gripped their souls, dread mingling with unwarranted scrutiny. As the curtains of justice lifted, the full extent of the damage became clear. Prosecutors determined that innocent lives had been ensnared within the jaws of a criminal investigation, a mere casualty in the relentless pursuit of fictional abductors. Sherri Papini's trial culminated in a sentence fitting her over-the-top transgressions. 18 long months behind bars awaited her, along with a colossal sum of $309,902 to those she had wronged. The California Victim Compensation Board, the Social Security Administration, the Shasta County Sheriff's Office, and the FBI. Her hollow words, spoken before the court, hung in the air, a pitiful attempt at redemption. Quote, I stand before you humbled by the court. I'm so sorry to the many people who have suffered because of me. I thank you all," unquote, she confessed, her voice laced with regret. Guilt and dishonor rested upon her shoulders, and she offered no explanation for the evil that had driven her to orchestrate this master plan. A psychiatrist attempting to peer into her mind speculated that perhaps Sherri had yearned for fame and fortune, or sought an escape from the impending divorce. The motive remained elusive, lost within the recesses of her narcissism. Though unmasked, her sadistic game had deeply troubled her loved ones, her community, and an entire nation of onlookers. What started as a haunting abduction quickly revealed itself to be a maze of manipulation and evil. The impact of Sherri's actions reached far beyond her immediate circle, striking at the trust of all who laid eyes on the events that transpired. This cautionary tale teaches us that in the realm of true crime, the line between truth and fiction can become nearly impossible to make out. Join us again on Vice Confidential as we explore more perplexing cases that challenge our perceptions and test the boundaries of possibility. Remember, behind every captivating crime lies a shadowy world just waiting to pull you in. We'll see you on the other side.